The classroom lights dimmed as the screen in front began to glow. Alien students, blue-skinned, scale-covered, some with feathers, some with tails, sat quietly in their chairs, watching closely. Today's lesson was about ancient predators, beasts that once ruled different parts of the galaxy. Dangerous, untamable, forgotten by most, the teacher. A tall insectoid named Professor Grinix clicked its claws together as the first video played. "Observe, students," he said. This was the apex predator of the Drashan moons. It could eat an armored tank whole. The class gasped as a massive beast tore through metal, roared, and disappeared into fog. Most students were shocked. A few looked scared. But one student didn't even blink. His name was Tyren. And he was human. Tyren sat in the back, arms crossed, silent. His dark hair hung near his eyes, and he didn't speak much. Most of the aliens found him strange. Not rude, just distant. Professor Grinix noticed his calm face. "Mr. Tyren," the professor said, tilting his head, "you don't look surprised." Tyren shrugged. "I've seen worse." The class chuckled. "Oh?" said a feathered student near him. "You've seen something worse than that thing?" Tyren slowly leaned forward, his voice low. "That one." He pointed at the screen. "Used to sleep under my bed." The room went silent. Every eye turned to him. Even the professor's mandibles froze in place. "Excuse me?" Grinix asked. "You are claiming personal contact with a Drashan-class apex predator?" Tyren nodded, his voice calm, almost cold. "It wasn't aggressive. At least, not with me." Gasps, whispers. One student dropped their tablet, another raised a claw. "That thing was hunted to extinction 200 years ago." Tyren looked. Up. They hunted the wrong ones. The professor moved closer, suspicious. "Are you saying one still lives?" "On Earth?" Tyren hesitated, then gave a slow nod. "It lived in the basement of our old outpost. I was 6 when I found it." No one laughed now. The students leaned forward. "What did it look like?" One of them whispered. Tyren looked at the video again. Bigger than that, older, smarter. It talked. The classroom burst into confused noise. "It talked? What do you mean? You mean like real words?" Professor Grinix tapped the screen and paused the lesson. "This is not protocol, but—" "Continue, Tyren. We are now all very curious." Tyren leaned back in his chair, as if remembering something far away. "The storms were bad that night. My parents told me not to go down to the basement. But I heard breathing, slow, heavy. I thought maybe something got stuck during the last cargo drop. So I went down. I had a toy light with me. The room was dark and wet, but in the corner," he paused, "I saw 2 eyes, orange, watching me. The class sat frozen. And," someone whispered, "it didn't attack, just looked. I didn't scream. I just sat there. I asked it if it was going to eat me." "What did it say?" the professor asked, barely above a whisper. Tyren smiled a little. "It said, 'Not tonight. You're not ready.'" The classroom erupted. "Again, that's insane. No apex predator can speak. This is a human joke, right?" But Tyren wasn't laughing, not even a little. Professor Grinix tapped his datapad, pulling up DNA logs and records of the Drashan predators. He looked nervous now. "This is a serious claim. If you are lying, Tyren, there are consequences." Tyren stood up slowly and walked to the center of the room. He looked at the screen and then said, "The galaxy called it a killer. But to me, it was just Gravax." Everyone froze again. "It had a name?" Tyren nodded. "And a mind. A very old one." One brave student stood up. "Is it still alive?" Tyren didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Yes." The lights flickered for a second. Outside the classroom, thunder rolled. But there were no clouds in the sky. Professor Grinix stared at Tyrion. Why didn't you tell anyone before? Tyrion looked at him dead serious. Because now you've made it angry. The class had never been this quiet. Tyrion's words hung in the air like smoke. Because now you've made it angry. Professor Grinix blinked his wide compound eyes. The alien teacher tried to recover his voice. This is impossible. The Drashan Predator line was erased. There were no survivors. Earth records confirmed it. Tyrion didn't flinch. That's because Gravex isn't part of your records. He hid when the purge started, and he never came out until he found me. A soft beep interrupted the silence. One of the students, Krelly, a young lizard-like alien, had quietly scanned the video footage's creature through her portable DNA scanner. She looked pale. Professor? Grinix turned. Yes, Krelly? The DNA signature. It just matched something. From Earth. Recent. Everyone froze. Recent? Grinix hissed. Krelly turned the scanner for everyone to see. A small green blinking light said, Match. 87%. Source logged. Earth border. Outpost. Colony 51B last scan. 3 months ago. The room broke into chaos. That's Tyrion's home planet. But those colonies are gone now. Was this thing living there with him? It's still alive? Tyrion stepped away from the display and sat down, his voice calm. I told you, I never lied. The questions begin, Professor Grinix looked stunned. His claws clacked nervously. Tyrion, what did it do to you? Tyrion looked up, eyes cold and clear. It taught me. Grinix leaned in. Taught you what? How to listen, how to hunt, how to survive. A winged alien student raised her hand shakily. But it's a predator, a killer. Why didn't it eat you? Tyrion looked down. Because I didn't run. Flashback. The first meeting Tyrion was only 6 when he first met. Gravax. He had heard breathing from under the floorboards. Loud, slow, deep. Most children would have screamed. But Tyrion had always been different. He brought his small toy flashlight and climbed down the old hatch. It was cold, wet. The smell of something ancient hung in the air. He saw the glowing orange eyes in the dark dot, and for the first time, he didn't feel afraid. Are you a monster? He asked. The thing moved closer. Voice was like thunder behind stone. No, I am what comes after monsters. Back in the classroom, Professor Grinix shook his head. And it spoke fluently? Not at first, Tyrion answered. It listened more than it talked. But it learned. Grinix tapped the board. Again, a new diagram appeared. It showed the Drashan apex tree. At the very top, one extinct creature, Azagrav 121, unnamed. UNMAPPED. Until now. The student stared. You named it? Gravax? One asked. Tyrion nodded. He liked it. He liked it? Grinix whispered. The horror grows another student pulled up an old colony log. The outpost where Tyrion grew up. It disappeared. Everyone was declared lost in a storm. No survivors. Tyrion finally looked shaken. That storm wasn't natural. And Gravax, he saved me. He dragged me out from the wreckage before it collapsed. Everyone else didn't make it. He killed them? Someone asked. Tyrion's voice dropped low. No, something else came. And Gravax fought it. The class stared. Another monster? Worse. A terrible warning, Professor Grinix. Stood straight. Tyrion, you need to report this. If something worse than Gravax is alive. It's not alive, Tyrion interrupted. It's waking up. He leaned forward. Gravax told me the galaxy once feared something greater than war, greater than death. And it sleeps beneath the oldest parts of Earth. He stayed to guard it. The classroom lights flickered again. This time, no one blamed the power. Tyrion looked around the room slowly. He watched over me as a child. Now, I think, he was training me for something. A deep silence followed. Professor Grinix opened his mouth to speak, but the alarm on the wall beat him to it. Warning: long-range biosignature detected. Source unknown. Direction: Earth gives orbit. The ship shook as the alert continued, flashing red. Long-range biosignature detected. Unknown species. Power class: level 9. Trajectory: low orbit. The classroom lights brightened again, but the mood had shifted. Nobody laughed now. Nobody doubted. Tyrion sat perfectly still, staring at the blinking alert. He already knew. Gravax was awake, back to Earth. Years ago Tyrion was 10. When he finally saw Gravax in the light dot, it was after another storm, the worst one yet. Power was gone. His parents were stuck off-site. Tyrion was alone. The basement hatch blew open. He grabbed his flashlight and went down. This time, Gravax stepped forward. His body was huge, twice as tall as a grown man, covered in dark scales, but with strange bone armor along the shoulders. His claws were long, but controlled, and his eyes, not angry, not wild, just watching. Tyrion stood still. Gravax spoke, deeper and clearer now. "You came again." Tyrion didn't know what to say, but he asked, "Why are you here?" Gravax crouched, his voice like stone being carved. "I sleep beneath this world. I was made to end wars, but when war forgot me, I stayed hidden. Are you the last?" "The last that chose peace." Tyrion tilted his head. "You're a monster." "No," Gravax said. "I am what monsters fear." Training begins from that day. Gravax began to teach him not with books, but with instinct, movement, hunting, observation. Look beyond what eyes see. Gravax told him, smell wise, feel danger, hear silence. Tyrion didn't understand at first, but slowly he changed at school. He became quiet, sharper. He noticed things before others, knew when someone was lying, could feel when something was coming. The teachers called it odd human behavior. But Tyrion was learning more from a basement predator than any school could offer. The night it all fell, Tyrion was 12, when the sky above his colony turned red. The thing came down from the stars, black, formless, alive but empty. It made no sound, just shadows that swallowed everything. The colony's defenses didn't fire. The soldiers froze, but Gravax moved. He tore through the walls. His roar shook the outpost. He stood between the darkness and Tyrion. "Hide," Gravax said. "No, I'll fight too." "Not yet," he answered. "You are still a flame. One day you'll be fire." Then Gravax leapt into the dark. Back in. The present Professor Grinix stood over the control panel, shaking. A level 9 biosignature, approaching from Earth's direction. This is no coincidence. Tyrion rose from his chair. "He's coming for me. To destroy?" "One alien?" Student asked. Tyrion looked at him. For once, his voice held something close to fear. "To protect? From what?" Another student said. Tyrion answered quietly. "Whatever woke up after he left." The basement door Tyron's memories took him back to the night after the battle. Gravax returned bloody, burned, and barely alive. He carried a strange object, an old container covered in ancient symbols. "This must not be opened," he warned. He placed it deep in the basement and sealed the hatch with a mark made of his own blood. "If it wakes, I'll know," Gravax told him. "If I fall, you must decide." "Decide what?" "Young," Tyrion asked. Gravax looked into his eyes. "Whether this galaxy deserves to live." The sky above the Space Academy was dark. Now, not night dark. Wrong-dark. Alien students and instructors gathered near the windows. The swirling clouds weren't natural. They shimmered like oil blue, green, and black. Electric veins flashed. Inside them, Professor Grinix locked the doors. Guards moved in. Everyone stared upward, but Tyrion didn't look scared. He closed his eyes. He's here. The first time it protected him, years ago, on the Earth outpost colony, 12-year-old Tyrion stood frozen at the edge of his home. A creature had fallen from the sky. It moved like smoke, but had weight. It pulled sound out of the air. The colonists screamed, and then there was only silence. Soldiers fired plasma weapons. Drones lit up the night sky. Nothing touched it. And the basement door exploded open. Gravax stepped out, his body larger than any vehicle, glowing with heat and fury. "You do not belong," he growled. The black smoke hissed, forming mouths and claws. It laughed without sound, but Gravax didn't wait. He attacked. The fight iron watched from the wreckage as Gravax and the thing collided. Claws tore through shadow. Tentacles struck scales. Fire burned through the sky. The battle shook the colony. Gravax was faster than his size should allow. But the creature was endless. It split into 3, then 5, then 10 shapes. Still, Gravax didn't fall. "You wake too early," he snarled. He tore off part of its body and slammed it into the ground. For a moment, it looked like the monster was dying. Then it hissed, "We were always here." Tyrant's Tyron tried to run to help, but Gravax roared at him. "Do not come closer." The ground broke apart. A dark spike shot toward Tyren. It would have struck his heart, but Gravax caught it with his bare hand. His claws crushed the spike, and his eyes glowed red. "You will not touch what is mine." He took the pain. The creature turned its full attention to Gravax, and for the first time, Tyrion saw Gravax bleed. Black fire poured from the wounds. His breathing grew louder, slower. Still he fought. He grabbed the creature and forced it into the earth, pushing it into the old tunnels. "This prison is for you," Gravax shouted. "And if I must stay to keep you there, so be it." The ground cracked, then closed. The outpost went silent, and Tyrion stood alone. Back in the present in the Space Academy, the skies boiled. A ship knot. Like any Earth, tech hovered silently above the campus. No engines, no wings, just shadow. Then, a figure dropped from it. It landed in the courtyard. Hard dust and wind blew outward. Students screamed. Soldiers raised weapons. But Tyrion stepped outside first. He knew what was coming. From the smoke, Gravax walked forward. Burned, battle-worn, but alive. The guard shouted warnings. Tyrion raised a hand. "Don't. He's not here to hurt us." A warning. Gravax turned his gaze to the guards, then to the sky. "It has returned," he said in a voice like falling mountains. "The seal is broken. The old ones remember." Professor Grinix stepped outside, trembling. "What is it that has returned?" Gravax looked at him. No hatred, just old sadness. "The thing you once called extinction was only sleep." He turned to Tyrion. "I kept my promise. I watched you. I waited. But now, we must choose." "Choose what?" Tyrion asked. "Whether to run or become like me." "Cliffhanger ending the wind," howled from the distance. A second object entered orbit. No signal. No signature. Just silence. And behind Tyrion's eyes, a deep memory stirred. A voice from long ago, whispering, "One day, child, the monsters will wake, and only monsters will stop them." The galaxy did not believe in old stories. It believed in scanners, laws, and power. So when the footage of Gravax's landing spread through the Space Academy's surveillance feeds. It didn't take long before a decision was made. Capture the creature, dead or alive. The Councils. Reaction on the Capital Station. The Galactic Security Council met in secret. A dozen alien voices argued, "We can't let it walk free. It's a relic, a threat, a living weapon too dangerous." But one voice was clear. If the human boy protects it, he's hiding something. Tyrion warned them back at the Academy. Tyrion stood in the courtyard with Gravax beside him. Gravax didn't speak much, but his body spoke for him 10 feet. Tall, scales like metal, eyes glowing softly orange. "They will come," he finally said. Tyren nodded. "I know." He looked up at the sky. "And they won't listen." The spaceport near the Academy was locked down. But not by the school. A galactic enforcement unit had arrived. Military ships, advanced drones, and elite alien commandos in black armor. They didn't ask questions. They came for one thing. Gravax. Order Tyron stood outside the main hall as the soldiers surrounded him. Professor Grinix tried to stop them. "You have no warrant." He snapped, "This being is not attacking us." But the lead commander, a tall, four-eyed warrior from the Zeltari, was unmoved. "We received a level 9 Predator ping. From orbit, we traced it to this location. Orders are clear. Detain, dissect, destroy." Tyrion stepped in front of them. "You're making a mistake." The commander pointed at Gravax, who stood silent behind Tyrion. "That is a creature of war. It has no place in peace." Tyrion's voice was calm, but sharp. "Then your peace is a lie." Gravax doesn't move. The soldiers aimed weapons at Gravax. Still, he didn't move. He simply stared at the sky. "They come," he said, "not for me, but because I moved first." The ground trembled slightly. Nobody noticed, except Gravax. Tyren. Tries to stop them. Tyrion looked at the soldiers again. "He's not your enemy." One of the commandos stepped forward and activated a stasis grenade. The glowing sphere hovered toward Gravax. Tyrion reacted fast. He jumped and caught the grenade mid-air, slamming it into the ground before it could activate. The guards shouted. Weapons were raised. Tyrion looked them all in the eyes. "If you try to cage him, you'll never leave this planet." "Is that a threat?" The commander barked. "No," Tyrion replied. "It's a warning." Flashback. What Gravax told him. Tyrion remembered one night years ago. He was sitting beside Gravax near the underground spring. "Why don't you just leave?" Tyrion had asked. "Why stay in hiding?" Gravax had looked at him, eyes glowing dimly. "Because I was not built to lead. I was built to end, to consume war itself." "What stopped you?" "You," Gravax had said. "You reminded me of the ones who used to be monsters and chose to stop." The betrayal back in the present. One of the Academy officers turned quietly and whispered something to the galactic commander. The commander nodded. Tyren noticed too late. A sniper drone uncloaked from the sky, aimed at Gravax's chest. FZZT. The bolt fired. Tyren turned just in time. "No." But Gravax moved faster. He caught the energy bolt mid-air. It didn't hurt him, but the intent did. He slowly looked at the drone, then at the soldiers, then at Tyrion. "They will never let me live," he said quietly. The change. The air grew cold. Gravax stepped forward. His body began to glow from within. Not fire, not heat. Power. The kind older than tech, older than light. The soldiers stepped back. "Do not make him fight," Tyrion warned. The commander raised his hand. "Fire everything." Tyrion shouted, "Stop." Too late. Dozens of plasma bolts flew toward Gravax. He moved once, and time seemed to bend. The unleashing Gravs became a shadow, a blur, a memory of a weapon. He didn't kill them, but he broke their weapons, crushed their drones, and melted their ships without taking a life. In 13 seconds, the battlefield was silent. All soldiers were on the ground, alive but terrified. Gravax stood in the center, breathing slow. I was patient, he said. I gave them time. He looked to the stars again. But now, it's coming. Cliffhanger-ending Tyron walked to Gravax's side. What do we do now? Gravax looked down at him. You've learned. You're ready. For what? Gravax turned toward the horizon, where a dark cloud was forming in the shape of something ancient. For war the stars forgot, but nightmares still remember. It woke up for me, third person. Simple English, 800 words. Epic conclusion. Powerful HFY twist the sky above the academy turned black. Not dark like night. Black like nothingness. Like something was eating the light. The alien students ran for shelter. Teachers activated energy shields. Sirens screamed. Ships tried to flee, but something jammed the skies. In the center of it all, Gravax stood like a statue. And beside him, Tyrion no longer afraid. The old warning comes true. Is that it? Tyrion asked. Gravax's voice was quiet, but heavy. Yes, the thing I was made to stop. The thing that sleeps below the stars. It is not a creature. It is a hunger. The shadow in the sky twisted. Tendrils of black mist reached down like hands, touching the towers. Buildings cracked. Walls melted. The galaxy had no name for this being, because those who tried never survived long enough to tell it. Galactic forces tried to stop it high above. The galactic fleet opened fire. Blue beams. Nuclear warheads. Antimatter pulses. None of it mattered. The shadow swallowed it all. Then it sent a pulse, a wave of nothing. The ships blinked out, gone, not destroyed, just erased. Professor Grinix fell to his knees. This can't be real. Gravax speaks the truth. Gravax looked down at Tyrion. Do you remember what I taught you? Yes. Now you must choose. Stay human, or become what can stop this. Tyrion looked up at the blackness. What does it cost? Gravax placed a massive clawed hand on his shoulder. Everything soft, everything weak, but not everything good. Then show me. The awakening Gravax took Tyrion's hand. Their skin pulsed, one scaled, one human, but both connected. A golden light burst from Tyrion's chest. Memories flooded. Him. He saw Gravax's life, the wars, the extinction, the betrayal. Gravax had once been called Destroyer, but in Tyrion's world, he was a guardian. Now, it was Tyrion's turn. Transformation Tree's body began to change, not into a monster, but into something more. His bones strengthened, his heart slowed, his thoughts expanded. He could feel every vibration in the earth, every fear in the air, but inside he still felt like himself, just louder, brighter, sharper. You're not becoming a weapon, Gravax said. You're becoming the one who holds it. The final stand shadow turned toward them. It knew Tyrion was changing, and it feared him, but it came anyway, like a storm of teeth, claws, and screams. It descended. Tyrion and Gravax stood together. And they ran forward, to escape, to fight. They hit the black mass like a comet. Tyrion punched with hands, now wrapped in golden fire. Gravax ripped through void like it was cloth. The galaxy watched, shocked. Because the thing that swallowed stars was now losing. Tyrion's final words as the creature shattered into light and dust. Tyrion floated above the ground, glowing like a newborn star. He looked down at the soldiers, the students, the galaxy. You tried to cage him. You tried to forget him, but Gravax saved you all. He was the monster under my bed. He looked toward the last falling shadow. And he was the first to believe I could be more. Epilogue weeks later. The sky was blue again. The Academy repaired Dot, but Tyrion was gone. Gravax, too. Some say they became part of the stars. Others believe they still walk in the dark, watching. Waiting, guarding. One thing is certain. The galaxy remembers now, and it will never forget what happens when you try to cage something that chose peace. The end